walking to a place, and once you get there, it's a new place.
Trucks.
It's really dark.
It's a special trucks, Josh.
We're back. We're back in the truck. The real truck.
Yeah, we are two sweaty boys in a sweaty room in a sweaty city in the sweaty month of September, which is a sweaty month now, pretty much all the way through, I would say.
Yeah, we figured you'd enjoy it.
Yeah, we're sweating our balls off for you specifically to capture some of the old vibe, but we also have the air conditioner on because we're not prepared to make all of the old sacrifices.
Yeah, sorry. But you can also, hey, on the bright side, you can hear the truck sounds again.
Exactly. And I bet you could mistake the air conditioner for a truck rumbling.
I have to close my window because I legitimately cannot see the road.
Yeah,
there we go.
I mean, that's going to help with the heat anyway.
Yeah.
Honestly. So yeah, we're in a dark and sweaty cave together, and I just drove across the country.
Mm-hmm.
It took me Tuesday to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It took me a week, which is, not insane.
Isaac saw 2 wrestling shows in 36 hours without sleeping.
I did. I saw All In Chicago, which is a big deal, and then I saw the third night of the King of Trios tournament in Pennsylvania for Chikara, which is not a big deal, but never ceases or never doesn't warm my heart. And I got to see Mike Quackenbush wrestle, which is a thing that I'd never gotten to see before.
It was really good.
And it was a fun time. A lot of, some good old grappling.
But don't tune out now. This is not a Wrestle Trucks.
It's not a Wrestle Trucks. This is actually going to be a Politics Trucks, I think.
Oh, God.
But only to, maybe worse than a Wrestle Trucks. I don't know. But that's the extent that we're able to continue to focus, given the fact that we're both sort of parboiling in here and getting used to each other's presence and juices filling the atmosphere. So my truck topic idea was essentially this, back in the day, maybe like 5 years ago, you got people making jokes on the Tumblr. Jokes, guillotine emoji jokes.
5 years ago.
Maybe,
I guess.
I don't think the guillotine emoji thing had started 5 years ago, you're right. Certainly become more visible and less joke.
Yes.
I think over time. Less joke.
We're beginning to get serious about the revolution, my brothers and sisters.
Yeah, do you remember we talked about the Left-Wing Fight Club a while back?
Yeah.
About the appropriateness of using punching in political circumstances. We're inching closer to the revolution because the contradictions have become more apparent. The divide between rich and poor has become wider and wider. And the rich are plausibly seen to be more interested in fleeing the planet or building giant statues of themselves underneath mountains or
have you guys seen these articles?
It's really something.
It's like not just idle speculation. There's anonymous rich people on the record asking people how they can keep their armed guards loyal in the bunkers when money has no value. And we were just talking about this on the car ride over here. And
so we thought, hey, we'll trucks about it. I'll let Josh drive instead of me.
I think the salient point was that the people with these stupid fantasies, it's not just people watching too much zombie television and wanting to be in that world. It's the people who have the means to make that world a reality.
Exactly. The people who have already given up on the responsibility of making the world a better place that comes with having the bulk of the world's power and money, and have decided that saving their own skins and letting the rest of us fry is a good idea. And this is a completely plausible narrative at this point, for better or worse, unfortunately. So the question becomes, what do we do about this? What do we do about the Jeff Bezoses of the world? Because, back in the day, this has happened already. This happens every time capitalism gets too big for its boots. You go back to the early part of the 20th century, deregulated banking, everybody getting really, really, really rich, and then a huge market crash, and then everybody except the really rich are really poor.
Yeah.
And what do you get across the world? You get the rise of fascism and the rise of communism. You get the rise of revolutionary movements. Now, we're in a place where outside Tumblr, communism has mostly been discredited.
Oh well, it's becoming a bigger deal on Twitter now too.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Well, like all Tumblr politics seems to be moving to Twitter. Like I've seen multiple people point this out. How like 2018 Twitter resembles 2015 Tumblr, like more and more.
You know, the UN, did you see this? The UN put out a study where some UN scientists said that maybe if we want to save the planet, we're going to have to deal with capitalism.
Yeah. It seems...
I showed that to my brother, and his reaction was, no wonder people hate the UN. My response was, they're going to hate living in an oven more.
The thing is, they're right, and the reason that they're right is that there's no such thing in this world as pure capitalism, which perfectly mimics or perfectly responds to what people want, so you get to make all of the power through choices through your buying and all of that stuff. Like, that would be a better system than the one we're currently living in, which is that the government props up people who are already rich.
Right.
And
those rich people have no sense of responsibility.
Yeah, and like even the free market, even if you think of the free market as like this callous, unthinking hand that makes some people rich and some people poor, that's not what's happening right now. The rich people are being insulated.
Sure.
And that's what happened after the last market crash.
Yeah.
Rich people were shielded from its effects.
This problem has gotten so obvious that even Tucker Carlson is doing reports on it. I saw this report from Tucker Carlson where he went in on Jeff Bezos, and he did it from a conservative standpoint, talking about how Jeff Bezos is subsidizing his underpaid employees with the taxpayers' dollars and all that kind of thing.
But it was ever thus,
and
it's thus all over the place. It's thus with Walmart, and it's thus with the welfare state continues to be a thing because without the welfare state, capitalism collapses on account of all the money pools in one or two different places, because the more money you have, the more money you can get.
Yep.
Like, it's really simple math.
Yep.
And income equality becomes huge and society falls apart. So there's always a government intervention to help, and that's how we put the world back together after World War II, Josh. That's what the Marshall Plan was.
Yeah.
We shielded, the communists said, hey, look, capitalism doesn't work. It leads to these like barbaric inequalities and war, and these sort of robber baron states where only a few people control all the power. And capitalism was like, nuh-uh.
Yeah.
And because they desperately wanted to demonstrate to communists the world over that that's not true, they came out with this form of capitalism where you still get the free market, but also nobody gets too poor because of social programs and state-funded education, and in a lot of places state-funded healthcare and
it quote unquote
economic stimulus and subsidies and all of this stuff.
Fixed everything.
Well, the thing is that it worked pretty well for a while,
We did keep cooking the planet.
We did keep cooking the planet, but that's because nobody knew that was a problem at that point.
That's not true. They knew about it.
In the 40s?
Yeah, I heard about that.
Oh, do tell.
I don't know the details. We just got off the highway.
We cite our sources in this truck, and we do not cite our sources in this truck. Yeah, I gotta tell you, it's really comforting to be able to trucks while I'm messing with the fidget ketchup packet again. I think maybe in order to really make trucks a viable thing going forward, I'm gonna need to find some ketchup packets for my own apartment so that I can squeeze them while we have these discussions.
I'll try to find the source, and I'll try to put it up on the screen. But I definitely saw something about how there were predictions about climate change as early as the 40s.
Well, regardless, it certainly wasn't the first thing on anybody's mind.
Sure.
Given that everybody thought that the world was much more likely to end because of nuclear weaponry.
Yep.
And they were really focused on stopping that from happening.
That almost happened.
That almost happened on a couple of occasions.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So capitalists and communists. the capitalists turned out to be right about communism being a barbaric system which slaughtered its own population. Not necessarily because of communism itself, but because all these people jumped the gun on the naturally occurring dictatorship of the proletariat and became dictators in their own right.
Sure.
And committed the worst mass slayings in the history of the planet.
It happened.
It did happen. That is 100% true. It happened under communism.
It's also worth saying that some of the communist states fell apart because they were sabotaged by the CIA, etc.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. I'm not saying I'm saying that the most stable and not fall aparty communist governments committed the worst atrocities on their own populations.
Sure.
China starved millions of people. Stalin's purges, Khmer Rouge, all that stuff. That all happened. It all happens under dictatorships, and all communist states have been dictatorships. Of course, that's because the democratically elected communist states, we fucked over.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely also a thing that happened. When I say this, I'm not like trying to say that capitalism is a better system. I'm saying that capitalism
it would be insane to call capitalism stable.
It would be absolutely insane to call capitalism stable. Capitalism cheated by creating the welfare state, by creating this hybrid system where the worst excesses of capitalism are controlled.
Except maybe for cooking the planet.
Yeah.
I had a friend who raised the point with me that he felt the word violence was overused in this discourse. Like, all these harmful policies, it's not really violence. You got to save the word violence for when things are really violent.
Incorrect.
Right. And I mean, even if you were to accept that as a premise, like, we're talking about a lot of death, on the horizon, perpetrated almost deliberately, or at least through deliberate neglect.
Can I also say that a thing that is absolutely true about every communist state that has existed, because it's in Marxist-Leninist ideology, is massive industrialization.
Yeah.
So, like, the communist nations were absolutely as guilty of this.
Sure.
At the same time as starving huge numbers of people. So,
I'm not trying to make a capitalism-communism point with that one.
Yeah, no, it's important to keep in mind.
When people tell you capitalism is the most successful system we've got, you gotta, maybe cooking the planet should be one of those measures of success.
Let me tell you a tale.
Yeah,
like,
please.
Ronald Reagan hated communism. Ronald Reagan loved capitalism. Margaret Thatcher hated communism. Margaret Thatcher loved capitalism, and as such, they attempted to undo the welfare state and to make capitalism more capitalist.
Yeah.
At the same time as they were attempting to bring about the end of the Soviet Union, which they ultimately did. So the banking system was deregulated. We had a decade of prosperity. And then the global economy crashed. You remember that?
Well, yeah.
2008?
Yeah, I remember that.
Big capitalism, big surplus, big crash, the way that capitalism does. And now we're seeing this rise of global fascism thing going on. And unlike in the 1920s, we have the potential to end life on this planet in like 3 or 4 different ways now.
Yeah.
And fascist ideology doesn't seem to have a control on that.
No.
Right? So, notably absent from this equation are the communists. We're not having any socialist revolutions anywhere at this point in time. I think Peru elected a real serious leftist.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Sure.
China's a market economy. North Vietnam is a market economy. North Korea barely qualifies as an economy, and the Russians are robber barons. So we have to look to Tumblr for communism.
That's not true.
And Twitter for communism.
That's not fully true. The electorate it's not a massive swing. It's far from a revolution, but we're electing more people. Like, it's becoming a buzzword you can say to get yourself elected is I'm a socialist.
Yeah, a socialist, which isn't the same as a communist, although
that's true.
But right now what people mean by socialism, I would say, is capitalism with a social welfare net. Capitalism with regulation.
It depends who you ask. Definitely if you ask the people who are running on those platforms, yes, that's what they mean.
Yeah.
But the people who are voting for them might not be looking for that necessarily.
I think that with the rise of certain memes, the guillotine meme, for example,
meme.
the Gilla meme.
The Gilla meme.
And I'm going to say guillotine because that's how MC Ride says it, and I'm not going to
It's guillotine.
I'm not going to disagree with MC Ride on this or any other issue of serious violence.
Guillotine is better for the Death Grips song.
It is. Guillotine.
Did I say guillotine is better for the Death Grips song? I meant guillotine is
Yeah,
better
I
for the
know.
Death Grips.
I was trying to make an example of why you were correct by doing it the wrong way,
Okay.
which is the right way, if you see what I mean.
I do.
People are saying we gotta, rise up, kill off this parasitic billionaire class. People are bagging on even relatively hapless schmucks who are part of this class, like Elon Musk. Unfortunately, people are bagging on the hapless schmucks who are part of this class to the exclusion of like super evil fucking human beings like these us.
They don't go for the limelight as much as Elon Musk does.
Yeah, I'm because they're smarter would be my contention.
Yeah.
But so it's like it would be nice if we if the left, which seems to be like trucking along basically in a state of constant pain and outrage, stopped and thought about what it actually wanted to accomplish here. Full communist revolution in the United States. Anybody? Josh, do you have a feeling about this?
I'll put my hand up.
For communism?
A little bit.
Okay.
Not like I don't want the bad one.
I think that it might be.
It's an abstract thing for me.
That's exactly why I'm saying this. Because there's very little more abstract than a guillotine. A guillotine is an extremely specific instrument.
Yeah, I thought you were asking about communism. I didn't know you were asking about the guillotine. Yeah, the guillotine
there's been a maybe a 1-to-1 correlation in most states. Where communism has happened. Well, it's not exactly 1-to-1, but they're mostly you don't get the one without the other.
Sure. I'm gonna try to talk to the viewpoint of the people talking about the guillotine in all sincerity.
All right.
First point. Yeah, they deserve it. They deserve to be guillotined. They do. I mean, yeah. If anyone in history ever has, these people do. Yeah.
I find it myself hard pressed to disagree with you.
As for the practicalities, like how do you break out the guillotine without just making a huge mess? I mean, I don't know. I don't have that plan.
As a person who enjoys the reading of history, I would say that it's very important to have a plan.
Yeah, but who are you? You're like intentionally asking the Tumblr people here.
Well, who else do we got?
You got. I mean, well, that's just the thing. If it's not a real serious thing, why really seriously interrogate it?
Because
there is something if there's something in the water, there's something in the water. And in no Trucks episode are we going to disavow people of their what's the word I'm looking for? Their kind of comforting jokes about how good it would be to guillotine the people who really absolutely 100%, definitely 100% deserve it.
I want to make two things clear. A, I don't have a problem with your jokes, any of them, as a general matter. That is my personal brand dictates that I don't have a problem with your jokes. B, I desperately want America to continue, and I want sort of middle class life to continue, and I want it to expand. I want the planet not to die.
Yeah.
So I'm real interested in the ways in which we can accomplish that.
Yeah, I mean, totally.
Do
we have a plan for that to happen without it continuing to be on the backs of third world laborers?
I mean, I don't think that you can after a certain point.
Do you want that to continue?
Because, no, I mean, what I would love to see is a world which uses, breakthroughs in technology, logistics, and transportation to have a equitable share of the riches that we have, which is enough to make everybody comfortable enough.
Yeah.
But
What people call, like, what is it, fully automated luxury communism.
yeah, that would be great. However, I don't think that we are smart enough to do it yet.
We definitely don't have the technology.
Every command economy that's ever existed has run itself into the ground.
Right. I think it's fair to say that currently the technology does not exist for the lifestyle that you and I enjoy to be distributed across the entire planet.
Yeah. So, like, I think that the position that some people have come to is, well, in that case, I better hold on to what I got.
Right.
Because what I would not like to happen is the descent of most of the planet into that condition with a few people who are able to afford floating tanks,
Yeah.
you know, floating prosperity islands to do the whole, not War of the Worlds. What's the one with the Morlocks?
Oh, the time machine.
The time machine ones. Preferred not.
Yeah.
To have the humanity divided into a permanent over and underclass. Acknowledging the extent to which that has already happened. I think that saying that pointing at any leftist politician that isn't sufficiently left and being like, well, you have no plan for the third world workers. You want police to continue to exist. You want us to have an army. Therefore, you are not sufficiently revolutionary, and we can't support you. Is a bad move.
I'll buy that.
That's the thing that I want to. That's the thing that I want to put across.
But if we can go back for a moment to framing this as a debate between communists and capitalists.
Okay.
The two philosophies, it seems to me, are, given that the technology doesn't exist for this lifestyle to be equally distributed, we find ourselves with two options. One of which is, screw all this then, the kind of the classic communist fundament, which is this whole thing, in that case, is an obscenity, and we should do away with it and see what an equitable world looks like, even if it's less good for those on top. Or the other option seems to be, either keep things as they are or keep things as they are until we maybe hopefully find a way technologically to fix it someday.
Yeah. And that latter is where I come down.
Yeah. I can't go there with you. It seems wrong to me. It seems wrong to ask the people in the factories to just hold on a minute, potentially for their entire lifetime.
People in the factories are doing fine for the most part.
You know who I mean. The sweatshop workers.
I would say to that what you I would say my response to that is essentially the revolution has never failed to make things worse for the people on the bottom.
I don't disagree with that.
It's like I just.
But I'm not talking in terms of practicality right now. I'm talking in terms of philosophy.
But we are. This is if there was ever a time where practicality has to be.
I'm not disagreeing with you that practicality is important. I'm just saying that we can't derail the philosophical conversation into the practical one every single time.
Okay, so so should we then look at the practical reason why or the philosophical reason why the revolution always makes things worse for people on the bottom?
Go for it.
Apart from the fact that war kills a lot of them always because of famine or disease,
sure. And
I
know a lot of it.
There is the fact that
when you take away the society, then you're dooming a lot of the people who can't cope without a society.
Yep. So the first thing that you have to do when you say, okay, this is an obscenity, is, all right, how many people have to die to get rid of the obscenity, and how many of the people who you're ostensibly trying to help have to die in order for you to get rid of the obscenity?
Yeah.
The next thing that you have to ask is, okay, so post-obscenity, is there a system that exists that distributes wealth as efficiently as capitalism does? And that's a genuine question.
Sure.
When you're envisioning this. When you're envisioning this system of everybody gets a fair shake, every person on the chain of command that distributes the goods has to be honest.
Yeah. No,
and they
I
have
know.
to be motivated.
I know.
And that's not humans.
Yeah. I mean,
So, like,
it turns out that no matter how you're proposing to run the world, it's impossible to do it right.
yeah.
So we could also, interrogate your philosophy with equally damning questions about how it's impossible to actually do it correctly.
Well, the thing is that the evidence works better for me. The historical evidence works better for me in terms of body count, in terms of the rising of the living standards for everybody in a particular society, if not for everybody in the world, but actually also for everybody in the world. When you think about what these factories do for the fucking countries that had them, the people who made our shoes, like what that did to the general standard of living.
Sure. I mean, it improved it, but it also capped it.
It did? Question mark? Like the things that we did that are inexcusable is that we stole other people's natural resources and made their labor work for us instead of them. And that's the thing at the heart of capitalism, which is awful, is that it's essentially a slave labor system by another name, because you have to work for the benefit of somebody else or you starve.
Can you support capitalism without implicitly supporting that slave labor?
Yeah, by saying, okay, capitalism but universal basic income, capitalism but universal health care.
Worldwide?
Yes.
Is there a path to that?
I think that...
Which effectively faces the urgency of the moment?
I have to tell you that it starts with the revolution, unfortunately. Like, that's the thing that I'm coming back to, is there is no... There's no
The
way...
cops are here to arrest us for our talk.
There's no way to make the rich give up their wealth except fear, I think. Like, they have to be afraid that people will take their money from them unless they give up some of their money. And that means that the optimal outcome is that they don't give up all of their money. They don't end up dying for the obscenities that they have done. They end up giving up some of their money because they're afraid not to. Now, you have to threaten them with violence in order for that to happen, I think. You have to threaten them with violence in order to make that happen. But if you let that violence grow out of control, the end result is almost inevitably the death of the weakest on a massive scale.
Sure. Which is what we're staring down the barrel of anyway.
Yeah. So, like... this is sort of how history works. Like, the less people have to lose, the more that violence is going to come. What the rich are currently doing is such a titanic and, as you say, obscene abdication of their responsibility.
Yeah. It's going to have the worst consequences we've ever seen.
It's going to have the worst consequences that we've ever seen, and it's important that they're not shielded from those consequences. So, like, I'm in the uncomfortable position here of being like, the optimal outcome is one where we get this close to chopping their heads off and don't.
We might have to chop one or two of their heads off.
We might have to chop one or two of their heads off. Like, please also understand me when I'm saying this, that this is coming from a person who would love to see them all die. I would love to see them all die horribly.
As long as we could do it exactly right, it would be awesome.
It's just, I just know enough to know what happens when you don't do it right. And that has happened a lot, and everybody I care about dies in those scenarios.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
And, like, I know a lot of people who I don't care about are currently dying.
Yeah.
And I care about the people who I care about more. And that's just the way that I and almost every other human being is wired. But I think that ultimately we agree that we would rather not see indiscriminate slaughter.
Yeah.
On the way to fixing the baking planet situation.
Right. It's just, I guess what happens to me is, like, you know, you work through this whole conversation we just had in your head, and you see pretty much no way out of the whole indiscriminate slaughter situation. Nothing that's really going to happen.
I mean, yeah, like, I'll be interested to see how the next couple of election cycles work out.
Sure, totally. It'll be a ride.
Like,
But I mean, I think at best we're looking at the world's worst refugee crisis.
Yeah.
A lot of loss of life in the east.
Yeah.
In this, like, the equator zone.
That's absolutely true. And
Probably some, failing food systems.
yeah, definitely rioting and looting all over the world. It's
So
it's one of those things where it's like, we've been the planet has been through this kind of stuff before, and like even human civilization has been through this stuff before within our lifetimes, like, proportional to the extent of civilization.
Sure.
Like enormous climate catastrophes, enormous famines, and thereby the disturbance of a lot of people, thereby war, thereby factionalism and warlordism, and people desperately trying to hold on to what little they have left.
Right.
I think that the problem will have to become that real before there will finally be the political will to deal with it.
Not to sign off on accelerationism or anything. Not to say like it's going to happen, so we might as well just make it happen as fast as possible. So
that's a very bad idea, because we don't understand how bad this could get.
Yeah.
Like even at this point,
it's constantly looking worse than we predicted.
Exactly. Like the exponential thing that happens. Yeah, I mean, like as we've established, I think it's like completely plausible, unfortunately, that humanity could really off itself at this point.
It's been plausible for a while.
It's been plausible. I mean, but that's the thing. It's been plausible since 1946.
Yeah.
It's been plausible since we dropped those atomic bombs, and it became clear to people in power that
I didn't get to finish my thought earlier.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
What happens to me was I go through that whole series of questions about how to prevent it, what the best course of action is, and find that kind of no matter what you do, unless we have an amazing stroke of luck, like scalable carbon capture technology or whatever the hell, nuclear fusion, I don't know. The bad thing is happening. So, given that I am not personally, not to abdicate the responsibility of having to figure it out just to anyone but me or anything like that, but it's not me.
No, clearly it's not either of us who's going to fix this situation.
I only have these conversations because Isaac wants to on trucks. It seems to I satisfy myself by deciding, if it does all happen to go to shit, which ideology is the one that I would like to see come out of the ashes. And I guess that it's not a real position about how to handle American politics in the year 2018. That's not what I'm trying to do.
No, but like a lot of people are having these thoughts, and a lot of people are voting.
Sure.
Or not voting.
Right.
And
I'm not saying that that's not a conversation to have. I'm only saying that I'm having a different conversation to that one.
Yeah. And yeah, like I'm not. When I say let's have a trucks about this, like I'm not doing it to try to convince you to have a particular opinion,
sure,
or to change your mind about anything. What I want to do is have the conversation because it's interesting.
Right.
And
I wasn't saying we shouldn't have done the trucks.
Yeah.
You get it.
It's important to consider when you're setting this up. It's like, where do I actually want this to go? Because I think at this point in history, there is a better chance of, certainly any time before in my lifetime, of things actually getting to the point where you might have to start making those decisions.
Right.
And albeit the way that history works is that the people who are not strong will never actually be making those decisions. They'll be surviving the making of those decisions.
Right.
While we still live in a democracy, what you do with your rhetoric makes a difference.
Yeah.
I'm saying this, like, you preserving the system where you have at least a little bit of say in what is happening to you is in your best interest.
Yeah.
You want communism, make sure that it's democratically organized.
Of course.
To the extent of that, which that is possible, which it has not shown itself to be up to this point. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. What people are into in theory is something called democratic socialism.
Which yes, excellent. If that's what I want. If you can do it, great. Like, it's a system where you're taking care of you can still vote, and you can still go down to the store and buy groceries.
Yeah, and likewise,
Like-
if you can do safety net capitalism, equally great, awesome.
They're essentially the same thing,
Right, yeah.
It's just that, you know, it's a question of like, do exercise your democracy, do safeguard your democracy. When these things start to happen, events start to go out of your hands. And like, if you are not going to survive the revolution or the fascist uprising or whatever, keep an eye on it. Have an exit strategy.
Yeah.
Do what you can to keep yourself safe. That's pretty much my final word on the subject.
We'll give you
because we're living in scary times.
We'll give you a couch to sleep on if we can.
You've got the one couch.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, Isaac and I, so between us at least 2 couches.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we'll hold a raffle.
We may disagree on what to call our ideal world, but we will both take care of you.
We both believe in the couch. Like, we who both exist extremely tenuously by the standards of our class, we'll do what we can to help folks who are existing even more tenuously.
Yeah. That, I think, is probably the most important takeaway. Is, you know, you can disagree on
At
the
least
finer
based
points
on our, you know,
all you want, but help people who need help. That's what it comes down to for me.
yeah, that includes being a responsible and educated voter.
That's true.
While it's still a thing you can do. Just saying. Well, that truck's pretty much lasts exactly the right length of time for a truck's.
Man, yeah, we got to a nice natural end of the conversation, and now we are here in
Tucumcari.
with some fruits.
Nice.
Lots of fruits.
You've been a double-decker this whole time.
Yeah, I feel like I did pretty well considering that.
Oh, and they're grapes, apparently, unless the fact that you're a winery truck is...
Oh, awesome.
yeah, sweet.
The finer things. I love expensive
Luxuries.
goods. I do
world-
love expensive goods.
The world will always need wine.
Yeah, it's ancient. It's probably much better now than it used to be. You ever think about how cool it is to live in the first world right now?
Yeah, I do think
it's
about that.
amazing.
I also think about a thing that I didn't bring up before, but was considering bringing up about how happiness is proportional to your expectations and your experience.
Sure.
And I think that if
So we'll be fine in the VR bunker.
I think that
In the
if we,
climate-controlled hell bunker. We'll be okay as long as we...
probably not there because there are certain human needs that are
Yeah.
that are difficult to get around. But like, I think that if we lost most of our technological conveniences within the next, but kept, you know, basic food, shelter stuff, like within the next couple of generations, people would be just fine.
Yeah, those of us who remember Spotify might have a hard time.
Exactly, like we would be, you know, weeping bitter tears of having to hand crank the old Victrola every time we wanted to listen to music, or make some ourselves. But yeah, I think that we could stand to lose a lot of this and still be perfectly happy people.
Yeah, on that we agree. No one needs this much luxury in their lives. Mm-hmm. And I say that as someone who's absolutely accustomed to it.
Yeah, I say that as somebody who really likes driving.
Yeah,
And who does a lot of it. And who just slurps up that gas from all those stations that for some reason are full of gas. Like, absolutely insane amounts of gas.
Thank God it's an easy one.
Ooh, there we go.
So anyway, let me know where the Fight Club is and when it's happening.
Yep. I've got I've been injured badly enough since we had that discussion that I don't see myself as a participant.
We had a problem.
We had an issue. Anyway, Josh was saying that I could be a trainer instead of an actual participant in the revolution. Maybe I'll just wear boots and tape up my ankle real good. Who knows?
You can be the tactician. You can be like throwing the smoke grenades and
I'll
like standing on top of a tall building and talking into a walkie-talkie. That
I've
sounds
always
pretty cool, right?
thought of myself as a sniper type. Anyway,
You can wear like big red goggles and a long duster coat.
This is the problem. Anyway, this has been a Trex. We certainly the last Trex will be recorded in this sweaty bedroom for a very long time. And I bid you adieu.
Bye-bye.
Bye.